Okay, YouTube, I'm back again. Here we are. It's Brittany here, and I'm back to talk to you a little bit more about my journey, my transition from male to female. So I am a transgender woman, and I have documented quite a bit so far about my journey into womanhood, and it has been quite a wild ride so far. I've just got a fan here blowing some air around my unit today. It's a little bit warm, so please forgive me if there's a bit of distraction there. So where did I get up to in my story? I actually got to a point where I was reflecting back on my childhood, and it didn't go too well, unfortunately. What I realised was that I actually brought up a whole lot of emotions and feelings from those moments in time. I didn't realise that I kind of felt that way, to be honest with you, and even when I unpacked those during therapy, it didn't have the same reaction on me, to a point where I haven't posted those 2 videos yet. Still, I may never, and I don't know, they really touched a nerve. They really brought up some feelings that weren't too great. They kind of reminded me of the confusion and the shame and guilt that I had associated with what I was doing at that time. And basically I recalled that feeling repeating itself on a cycle throughout my entire life, starting from around the age of 6 years old, pretty much through to only a few months ago when I came out to my wife, when I was still living in secret. So I suppose the subject for today's video is probably going to be around maybe a little bit of triggering those feelings, and the onset then of dysphoria and some depression, and that spiralling down sort of situation that I found myself in yesterday. So after recording those, and let's face it, I ran a bit of a marathon to get to that point. If you look back at my previous videos, I'm wearing pretty much the same outfit in the majority of them, and that means that I just recorded them consecutively, one after the other. So I hadn't really given myself a break, and it was a real emotion dump, if you want to look at it that way, where I had just conjured up all these feelings and emotions, and I just kind of brought them all together in the front of mind. And those last 2 about my childhood just had toppled me over the edge. I ran out of emotional real estate, so to speak, and I don't think I left myself enough capacity to really deal with those, and that sent me into the spiral. So it was a pretty dark place I went to, and I had contemplated not even presenting as me. I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. I couldn't look myself in the eye because of those feelings of shame and guilt, which I haven't felt those for so long. I mean, I've clearly come to terms with who I am, and like I've said on numerous occasions, I am living full time as a woman now, as my authentic self. So it really took me by surprise that those feelings really sidelined me so quickly and so dramatically that I basically couldn't function for the rest of the day. I took a day off work yesterday because I was just feeling so out of sorts with myself, and the feelings of dysphoria were just terrible. I started to pick myself apart. I started to look at all the things that I typically don't like about myself. And let's face it, we all have those, whether you're a trans man or woman, whether you're a cis man or woman, or anybody else, however you identify, we all have things we don't like about ourselves. And some of those, I guess, fall into different categories. There can be some body dysmorphia matters that we deal with, and there could be some body dysphoria matters that we deal with, i.e. directly associated with your gender. So I loaded both barrels and fired them directly at myself. Not a nice analogy, I suppose, but all I'm saying is I really let rip on myself, and I criticised myself quite heavily on all those things that I don't like from both those categories. And then I did a really silly thing of, first of all, my intentions were good. I pulled up YouTube and I was looking for some inspirational stories around transgendered people's experiences and some positive things, and maybe I was looking for a little bit of hope. But alas, what I found was some videos of this really beautiful trans woman who, mind you, has been transitioning for over 2 years, and she had completed very early on, actually, in her transition, a lot of her surgeries. She had multiple, actually she had more at once, this particular, this woman, I won't call out her name because I don't know if that's ethical, but she had like every facial feminisation surgery that you could possibly imagine. She had her breast augmentation done and a bottom surgery done in quite quick succession and very early in her transition. So you can imagine that she's not super young either. So she's not that younger than me actually, but the results are remarkable. And I was just looking at her in awe. And then what I did to further dig my hole was I pulled up my adjacent computer screen. I have 2 screens side by side, as most of us do, and turned my live camera on. It had my face up on there. So I'm looking at my face and her face, and I'm drawing comparisons. And that didn't end well at all. So, what's the point of all this other than just telling you a story of my despair? I suppose what I'm actually trying to illustrate here, and also to help with my own coping mechanisms, is that I think I'm slowly starting to actually acknowledge and register that these bouts of depression and dysphoria are going to happen. It's not if they're going to happen again, it's pretty much when they're going to happen again. So I'm trying to instill in me some kind of understanding, some kind of way to identify when these are coming on, and then a way to manage them, and a way to just accept them, acknowledge them, and move on, and not let them become so debilitating, because that's what's happening to me. And I think somebody commented on one of my other posts on Reddit saying, the trick is not to let yourself wallow in it. And that's exactly what I was doing. I was wallowing in my own misery. And it's almost like I was pouring on more misery and more, just to see how far I could feel and what I could feel. And sometimes it's a good thing to feel, but other times, I suppose, there's a limit to how much you probably should push yourself. And I definitely on that day pushed myself a little bit too far. So then I found myself, I think I mentioned a little while ago, I didn't elaborate though, not even wanting to present. I went and put on some boy clothes, like that's how miserable I got with myself, having a big sook. So I went and put on some of my old boy shorts and a t-shirt, and I was pretty down on myself. Never once though have I considered, and even during that period, had I considered stopping my transition or detransitioning or pausing. I've never, and I still haven't had that, and I don't think I ever will, because I know that this is my journey. I know that this is who I am. So how did I overcome that? The next morning I woke up hoping I was going to be feeling better, but I wasn't. So I continued my misery by putting on some more boy clothes. I actually had an errand I had to run. I had to go and drop my car at a mechanic's to get some repairs done to it. And I didn't have the willpower or the energy to be bothered getting dressed up. It's not really dressed up though, is it? It's just getting dressed as me. So again, I put those boy clothes back on, and I put on a cap. I even put on my old glasses, not these ones, and I was really sticking it to myself. I was really proving a point. So I went off, dropped my car off, and I rode my bike back home, and I got here, and I made a couple of videos that I put up on Reddit, and I was still feeling pretty crappy. Anyway, look, I had the day off work. I did a bit of self-care, watched a couple of romantic comedy movies, trying to lighten the mood a bit. Did have a glass of wine or two in the evening, and I went to bed. My wife came home and we had dinner, and actually no, we went for a walk, which was great. Exercise is good. And then we had a bit of a chat, and she said some lovely things to me, which made me feel really good, as well as a lot of the positive comments that I'd received on my post from Reddit. I was getting this overwhelming response of support and encouragement, and everybody just trying to help me realise that this is temporary and it will pass. And I woke this morning, and you know what? I couldn't wait to get dressed. I couldn't wait to do my makeup and present myself the way that I know I should be presenting. And then I looked in the mirror once I was finished, and I was really pleased to see myself again. So how do I wrap this up? What's the point of this video again? Is it passes. It's a given that they come and go, but it's a given that they pass. So what I'm trying to do is to learn from these every time they happen, is to learn from them and just try to make myself a little bit stronger and have some inbuilt coping mechanisms where I don't totally sideline myself, acknowledge that this is happening and it's real, and it's okay to feel this way. You can't feel happy and on top of the world all the time. It'd be lovely if we could, but the reality is we can't. And then how do we move forward? What are the things that make us happy and the things that make us feel whole again, and realise who we are and just get ourselves back on track. So that's my video for today. I don't think I'm going to upload those 2 videos reflecting on my childhood. I think at this stage, maybe later I may, but at this stage they're too personal, and they just touch a spot inside that I'm not ready to deal with yet, or rather I'm not ready to share. I hope that's okay, and I hope you understand. So that's me. I'm pretty sure we're up to date now. So I think my journey now becomes current day. I think we've caught up to where we are, and this video today is clearly an example of what's happening current day. So again, I encourage you to leave me some comments. I encourage you to make some suggestions about things you may want me to talk about, some subjects or topics that are close to your heart, and it might be something you're dealing with at the moment. You might be scared to take that step. That's the kind of content I guess I'd like to move into next, and I'd like to try to make this a bit more interactive, so it's not just me here talking at a camera. I'm actually answering and responding to things that you want to hear about, and I think that's going to add a lot more value to my videos and to my overall channel and what I'm here trying to achieve. So thanks once again for listening. This has been Brittany, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.